Welcome everyone to the Howl Podcast, where we feature individuals from various backgrounds with captivating stories to tell. And our goal in this podcast is to bring people together by sharing diverse perspectives and experiences, and also empowering and amplifying underrepresented voices to inspire positive change in the world. And I'm your host today, Juan Raimundo Ramos. And I'm super excited about this podcast in particular because this is someone who I look up to and who's such a strong leader and amazing in many ways. Her name is Drea Castro, a talented filmmaker, actress, adventure seeker, photographer, and FilAm Creative's VP of Career and Creative Development. And she was also the director of the documentary feature called Baldy for the Blind, which premiered in the TCL Chinese theaters at the 2023 Dances with Films Film Festival. And we're super excited to hear more about Drea's journey, her insights into the world of filmmaking, as well as her project Baldy for the Blind, which has been getting a lot of recognition and support from media outlets here and there. So without further ado, please welcome Drea Castro.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm very excited. And I feel very honored to be on your podcast. Those are such kind words, by the way. You are also making waves in your life at such a young age. You're already doing so many incredible things. So I admire you.
I admire you as well. And thank you so much for the kind words. And we're so inspired because you made a film that's super inspirational, and it really motivated me to become a better person after watching it in the film festival. And I just want to say congratulations on all your success and also having, that many people in the theater. We basically, I heard you sold out the theater days before the festival?
I think it was 2 weeks or a week. It was we still had time. And so I actually thought we were going to be in the small theater. And I remember when they first told me, okay, you're either going to be in the 289 seater or the 450. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to fill 289 seats? There's going to be 5 people that's going to show up. And I was so scared. And I don't know how many weeks before I checked on the number, and it was 300 something. And my jaw dropped. And then I got terrified just to think that my film would be showing to so many people, because at that time I had only shown it to maybe 2 people in my living room, so it's the thought of having more than 10 people, and now the thought of 300 something, and then eventually the 450 plus people that were in the theater. That is it is the most terrifying moment of my life. It was so scary.
Wow. And we'll definitely get more into that, your journey in making the film, etc. But we definitely want our viewers to get to know more about you as a person, where you came from, where you were born and raised, etc. So just kindly introduce yourself to the audience and maybe talk a little bit about your background as well.
Okay. Well, I was born in the Philippines, and I came here when I was really young. And right around middle school, my Lola, my grandmother, had passed away. So then I was going back and forth to the Philippines. And one year I actually went to high school there. So I'm very much like this person that has lived in both worlds. And that's why I speak fluent Tagalog. And then I grew up in Jersey primarily, and obviously the Philippines for 3 months out of the year. And then I went into theater and then eventually film, and moved to Los Angeles because it was way too cold in New York and New Jersey, and made my way over here. And I've been here. This is home. I've been here since end of 2008.
Wow. That's impressive. Can you describe the transition you had from the Philippines to the United States? Did you have some sort of culture shock, anything like that? Did you have to make certain adjustments with yourself, etc.? Can you describe that a little bit more?
I was so young. So young when I came here. I was 4 years old, and it it was just, it felt normal. Like it felt really normal, but it wasn't until I went home to the Philippines when I think I was like 12 or 11, that I realized that that was home. And going back and forth yeah, it just, I don't know. I was just always really adaptable as a child, and you are as a child, but for some reason I didn't have that culture shock, because I was just always, back and forth. And then Filipino culture and our language and our food was so, so important. Even here in America, my mom and my family made sure that we still was Filipino, even though we were now Filipino American. So immigrating over, like we were still very much like part Filipino. There was nothing about it that it felt like I had been, I was living two lives, but I was always like Filipino. The foundation was there.
Absolutely. I do. And thank you for sharing that story, because I'm so curious, like whenever I talk to immigrants and guests from, different countries, different backgrounds, like what kind of journey they had to go through, like coming here, because everyone has a different story, right? Like I myself am an immigrant, and I moved here in 2009. Basically not knowing what to expect, etc., like what kind of connections I'm going to make. But I did know I was 13 years old, and I all I knew in my head was like the Hollywood's here, and I wanted to become a filmmaker and wanted to become an editor at such a young age at 13. But I didn't know, a place to start. But I knew that Los Angeles was basically the place, to go to, because people from all around the world are basically coming here. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
you knew really young.
Yeah.
You knew really young. Wow. That's amazing. That's a privilege.
Yeah.
Your path.
I would say so too. And I'm also blessed to, I guess, still retain a lot of the language and the culture and the information from the Philippines. And that never really went away, I would say. And
yeah, same.
Because, my family is in the household, etc. We basically speak Tagalog, I guess that's the only time I would speak Tagalog, like at home.
Yeah, but it's such a privilege to know your path in life, that you knew that you were going to do this creatively. Because I remember when I was 13, I was like picking my butt. Like I was like, I wasn't doing, like I was being like a child. Like I didn't think anything. Like, but it's funny to know that you were like, I need to go to LA. I'm like, what?
I need to go to LA.
I know, 13. Like, what are you talking about?
So I guess you didn't know that you wanted to become a filmmaker or an actress, like moving into Los Angeles.
Oh, when I moved here, I was already in my mid 20s. So 100%, I already knew that I was going to be in the entertainment industry. But when I was 13, I thought I was going to be a singer, actually. I was in love with singing. I loved singing. And in high school, I sang all the time. People thought I was going to go into musical theater, become a singer or something. And then that eventually transitioned into film, because I just loved, I was in theater. I went to college for theater, and I just absolutely love the nuances of film, how you can have an emotion with a little blink of your eye that can mean something. And that to me was so like innately like part of what I wanted to do, as opposed to theater, which is like big and like, which is also fun, but something about film, it made me transition into that world. And I naturally left singing and musical theater and theater and do what I do now.
Absolutely. And one of the things I got to say is, like, no matter what Filipinos go through as far as like career is concerned, they're always going to sing, because karaoke is like right around the corner.
You know what I mean.
You know. Absolutely. But talk a little bit more about your journey in filmmaking and how you discovered your passion in storytelling, because everyone has their own, I guess, point of view in that.
I was always a storyteller. Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to tell stories. I remember just I had a younger sister, and she's a lot younger than me, and wanting to direct her. Like, I was like, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to dance like this. Like, I was like 9, and I'm trying to teach this, like, little girl how to like dance or do these things. Like, I was always directing as a kid, and I didn't even know it. And so there was always that part of me that I didn't even understand. But the whole filmmaking thing, my filmmaking journey started with Baldy for the Blind. That was my first film. That was my first real film. I did a short film back in Boston in 2007. It was called The Unknown. And I remember I wasn't supposed to direct that, and it got handed to me, and I learned a little bit of directing there, but that's like your first film. So I had a lot to learn. And it was back in 2007 where it wasn't as easy to have cameras and things like that. And I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anything. But really, the film that shaped me was Baldy for the Blind, because I started that film in 2010. 2011? Gosh, yeah. So long ago, 13 years ago. And that film really taught me a lot. And at the same time, around 2010, 2011, I started, I met my friend Ruben Garay. He was in, entertainment. He was filming stuff for VH1, and he had this company called Hollywood Bubble, and he would do entertainment news. And he started hiring me to shoot from time to time. And I learned a lot from him. He was my kind of like my mentor. He doesn't even know it. And that was the time of DSLRs as well. The brand new DSLR. So all of us were kind of like learning that. And I had already come from the photography world. And that was it was such an easy transition to understand a little bit more. And obviously when you get into the world of film cameras, it's a whole nother level, but that's where it all started. Like the interest in like, wow, I could go from still images to moving images. And I had all these people around me that already did do that. And they took me under their wing, and I started working in the entertainment field that way. So yeah, anyway,
absolutely.
Long story.
That's an amazing story. And it also looks like you've, worked on various projects in the past. You mentioned about the Baldy for the Blind. Wow, 13 years. That's amazing. It's a really long time to work on a film, but having it recognized as, having a standing ovation after the film was finished. That's just amazing. But I wanted to ask this question too, because it looks like you're also working on various things as, an actress, as a, director, producer, writer even. So I wanted to ask, like, where do you see yourself, I guess, moving forward in the future, whether it's near or distant, or do you want to be like all of the above? Like, I want to be a director, producer, writer, actress, etc.
People ask me this a lot, and my answer isn't one thing. It's whatever will create a path for people that look like us, people that are Filipino, people that are brown, people that are underrepresented, whatever that looks like, and whatever way that I can create that path and the fast track to that path, then that's what I want to do. If it's acting and I get some kind of huge role that'll help pave the path, and then I get to continue to, pull somebody up, great. If it's producing, if it's directing, then that's great. I'm not in this because of like, oh, I need to be seen as an actor or whatever. I'm in this because I'm tired of us not being seen on our television sets. I'm tired of us not being seen in film. So however way I can do that, that's what I want to do. If I can support somebody else to reach their dreams so they can create a path, and that's what I want to do.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story. And it looks like you're doing it for a purpose, like for a bigger purpose. And that's such an amazing story, Drea. And I wanted to ask, like, regarding like Baldy for the Blind, like what drew you to documentary filmmaking? Because that's such I guess I would call that a different style than like narratives and other types of projects. But what drew you to capturing, I guess, real stories, right, on screen?
Narratives are really fun because then you get to paint. You get to pick your colors. You get to pick the kind of brush that you want, every little detail you get to pick. But with documentary filmmaking, you have no choice. The paintbrushes are given to you and you have to make something out of it. So it's a skill and it's a challenging one. And sometimes you'll have hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage and you have to figure out which story is the one that you want to tell. That's very, very exciting to me. And on top of that, giving you can give somebody a voice through narrative, but when you actually interview somebody and you show their face and that's their story and that's their real life, you get to change it in a very different way. When I was getting those calls after the premiere of Baldy for the Blind from those blind students, and they said, "Hey, Drea, I've never experienced anything like that. Like, thank you so much. I feel like my family can see me, and they never asked me those questions before. And now everyone sees me and people were stopping me to take photographs. Like, thank you." Like, that's the stuff to me that really matters because I've made an impact on their life. And I knew I would, but I didn't really know until after that premiere that it was that great of an impact. Yeah.
Trust me, you did impact so many people in amazing different ways. And I gotta say that documentary filmmaking is such a different style than narratives, in a sense that I think there's a lot of assets that you have to really, I guess, gather and consider. Like, I feel like people are shooting way more in documentary filmmaking as opposed to narratives that are like mostly planned, right? In documentary filmmaking, I would say, like, from what I observed, like, there's a lot of B-roll involved, a lot of like things to shoot. And can you tell me the process of like Baldy for the Blind, how that came about, and also like what made you decide to be like, oh, I want to work on a documentary feature on blind hikers?
It didn't start as a documentary or a feature. It didn't start as a documentary feature. I was a site guide, and because I'm an avid hiker, and there was a meetup group that was looking for volunteers. And I was like, wow, I want to go help. I was like, I want to go help somehow. So I started getting trained to be a site guide. And I remember getting blindfolded. And then they were teaching me, like, this is a little hill. And I was like, oh my God, this hill feels like it's massive. And realizing that journey was something I was not familiar with, that I definitely had my own stereotypes and I knew that they were wrong. And I needed to answer the questions that I had. And with that, something at my heartstrings was pulling, like, hey, you need to tell this story. You don't know how to tell the story. You don't know what you're doing, but you need to tell it. And that's when I decided that I was going to do it. During that training, I went up to Chris Lynch, who's the hiking leader who put the whole thing together. And I said, hey, is anybody filming this? He said, no. And I said, do you mind if we film it? Is it okay? And he said, no, absolutely. You can totally film it. And then we filmed the first hike, and we cut like a mini trailer, and everyone was so excited about it. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I started digging deeper and deeper and going into people's lives and earning people's trust and having people become subjects, then eventually become friends, and then eventually family. And it just changes your perspective again. And so that's how I got into it. And then 13 years later, it was this journey of ups and downs and twirls and all kinds of stuff that happens when you are by yourself primarily and not having anybody to help you. You run into a lot of issues. So that's why it took so long. And I had so much to learn. But yeah.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, the movie touched me in so many different ways because of these people that you interviewed, because of these hikers. And they have so many amazing stories that they shared throughout the film. And I gotta say, like, people like around me were reacting here and there whenever something would happen. I just thought that it was such an amazing film that everyone should see around the world. But you mentioned about working on it for 13 years and like all the obstacles that you had to go through along the way. If I may ask, like, what was the process going into the film? Like, how it was taking like 13 years in the making, from I guess 2010 until now?
Sure. There was a lot. But the biggest obstacle was finding an editor. I didn't meet you yet, man. Like, I was like, you want to work on this? Let's go.
Let's go.
I know, right? I was trying to look for an editor, and I would get, because it was an indie film, right? Like, we're trying to figure out like how you're going to do this on the low. And I remember meeting people that would get so excited about the subject matter and would see the far vision, like, oh, wow, this could get a lot of recognition. And they would start to work on it. And then I would let them have it for 6 months, and then nothing would happen. Mm-hmm. And then I'd get it back, and they would say, they don't know how to do it. It's too much. It's a big behemoth of a project. And then it happened over and over and over and over again. And then eventually I became an editor. I became a skilled editor, and it's year 6 or 7. And I met my co-producer, Matt, who was also an editor, and him and I were like, why don't we just edit it? Let's just do it. And then we started working on it. And then, there were several different types of cuts of this film. There was like the very first rough cut was 2 hours and 37 minutes. And then we cut it down to 1 hour and 36 minutes. And then I thought that was the final cut. And then I knew it wasn't right. So I got somebody to critique it and rip it apart and spit it out. And then I was like, great, I love these notes. And then I redid it again, and I took a Sundance class on story structure, and I recut it again. But yeah, just lots and lots of trying to refine, because I didn't want something. It's a documentary. It's not a bunch of actors. The stakes are high. This is the one time these people are going to be able to tell their story, and I need to do it the best way that I can with what I have, because I can't go back 13 years. I can't quite refilm. So I needed to do it correctly.
Wow. So you basically became an editor yourself. Wow. That's such an amazing story, Drea, because like, even for me, like, even though I do this for a living, I still, like, having watched like a lot of footage, it's so hard to like pick which one's the best shot, the best clip here and there from time to time, right? Even though you've done it like multiple times. But if you're trying to like create a story that's so meaningful and impactful, you really want to like pick the best moments. And from time to time, like I said, like, it's still hard for me. But talk about the logistics of Baldy for the Blind, like the documentary, as far as like who shot it? Like, I know that you said that you were a hiker, and you also directed it, you edited it. Did you also shoot it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was me, another person. And then on that final hike, it was 3 people, me and 2 other people. And then the big drone shots, drones weren't around in 2009. Drones didn't come around till like few years ago. That was us, me and my husband Michael, climbing Mount Baldy, backpacking and taking drones. That's the thing. If I had done this film 6 years ago, no one would get the scale of this mountain. No one would understand how big this mountain truly is. They'd be like, oh yeah, they look like they're on a nature hike. No, this mountain's huge. So I think it was meant to be that it was supposed to come out now. So yeah, last year we went up, and was it last year? The year before? I forgot. We went up, we backpacked, and then we took those epic drone shots of Baldy. So the ones that you see up there. So yeah, 4 of us. Oh, Mikey too. So he came with me for the follow-ups. There's a guy, Mikey Pasqua. He came and did those follow-up shots with me at the end. I shot A cam, he shot B cam.
Wow. So you had multiple camera operators who were also hiking. Amazing stuff. And I got to say, like, having hiked multiple times, I guess, in the past, mostly in California. Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing to do, at least if you're starting out. But like, people have to understand how like difficult some of these trails get, right? So I do appreciate the fact that you were really showing it through like drone shots, through like I don't know, like those really cool like graphics and animations of the path of the hike. So that was really impressive to me. And also I gotta say, after I watched the film, one of the things that came to my mind was everyone has really has a body for the blind in their lives, right? Like people start from the bottom, and you know, there's so many different like challenges that are gonna be in their path, that are along the way, and whether it's fair or not, it doesn't matter. They're gonna come up. Like just giving this body for the blind analogy, like whenever you have disabilities here and there, on top of, you know, there's like, you don't know if there's a rock in front of you. You don't know if like, you know, whatever obstacles are going to come up, you know, there's so many different challenges that people face when, you know, they're going through these things. And when you reach the top of that peak of that mountain, that's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but everybody has their own mountain to climb. Yeah. And sometimes we go in blind and we don't know what's happening next. And you're just like, where is the top? And you have these switchbacks and like, my gosh, and then it's down and then it's up again. It just, you know, that's life. And I think that's what my film really shows, in addition to so many other things. But it's about people's mountains, the adversity that we all have to face and how we can get over them, and how we can, the strength of the human spirit and how we can fight through them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. And I gotta say, like just observing like how people were watching it, like people were laughing, having a good time, and also crying because they were just so amazed and inspired by like the stories of these people, because each of them have their amazing, inspiring stories that they were sharing. Like talk a little bit about like these blind hikers, like how you got to interact with them, etc. Like how you got involved with like telling their stories as well, because these were amazing people that, you know, that we saw on screen.
What was so interesting about all the blind hikers that were in my film was that they all had something really special about them. They all had, like, you had Michael Jackson's costume designer there. You're like, what? I didn't cast this. These people were just there. And then you have Ward, who's like, I'm an architect and an artist. And then you have JoJo, who's already been like rock climbing and been in newspapers. All these people had something about them, because there's so many students at the Braille. There's a lot of students, but the ones that ended up on that climb were really, really special. It took a certain type of person to go, you know what? I'm going to go climb this huge mountain and I have no idea how hard it's going to be. I'm just going to go. And so I think it takes a type of person. And I think that's proven in the film. They all have this like through line of like, I'm doing this. They had this determination either to show everybody that blind people are very capable. Like JoJo was like, I want to show everyone we're capable. DJ is like, I want to show everybody, you know, that we can climb a mountain. And then you have Melissa, who's like, I don't want to tell anybody, this is for myself. I want to climb there for myself. So it's just very interesting. They all had something. They all had something to prove for themselves, you know, or show or inspire others. You know, they're there because they want to inspire like fellow blind people or sighted people. It was interesting. And then as far as like how I got involved with them, they were definitely shy at first. I think they didn't know what the heck was going on. And, you know, I'm sure they, you know, who is this girl who's asking us all these questions? But eventually, through time, we were there every single weekend training with them. There was a bond that was formed. There was all of us, all the sight guides, all the blind hikers, Chris, we've all formed a bond because every single weekend we were there climbing for like 12 hours, you know, at times. So we were together for so long. And so they eventually knew that they could trust me. That's part of documentary filmmaking. That's the key to documentary filmmaking, earning someone's trust, and knowing that you're not going to exploit them. And that's also there's a fine line of doing that as well. So that's a little bit of the journey.
well, just a little bit about the journey, the 13 years of journey. But I gotta say, like, all of the stories that were shared with these hikers is so amazing to be inspirational to many. And I really hope that the film goes to many different places, etc. And I gotta say, like, the way you handled, like, during the screening and even after the screening, how graceful you were, and also how you made these blind hikers, like, you know, stand out, because, you know, how after the screening was over, they're like, okay, Drea Castro, please come on front. But for you, you're like, okay, I'm not going to go here alone. You mentioned this to me. Let's bring these hikers on in the front because this is about them. And they were the ones who inspired all of these individuals who are watching this film, right? So just talk a little bit about, like, the premiere and how it went, because I keep saying it over and over again. It was such an amazing film. It was also an inspiration to many.
Oh, I remember Jeff Francisco was standing next to me and he actually filmed me. I was like panicking because the standing ovation happened and I was like, oh my God, I need to go to the front now. And then I was like crying. And then I was like, ooh, pull it together. And I remember coming out to the front and then looking at this huge theater. Like, when you say 450 plus people, you don't like, that's a number. But when you actually see it, you're like, this is insane. But yeah, so I go up to the front and they introduce me. And then I say, no, we're not doing this without the blind hikers. Like, I said to them, like, you better call them down. And I actually had a conversation with them before where it's like, listen, like, this is not about me. I'm going to have premieres. I'm going to continue doing this type of work, and I will have many, many premieres and many times to do a Q&A. But these people, this might be their only film, and this is the only time they'll get to shine. So I will sit the heck down. I will not talk. I'd rather have them talk. Because it's about them and it's their moment. I'm just the facilitator. I'm just the facilitator to their stories. The inspiration derives from them. So that was important to me. That was everything to me. And it was literally a conversation I had prior to that premiere. I was like, I know you only said 2 or 3 people up here, but I need to have them down here. I'd rather sit down. So, and I said that, I was like, I would sit down. If that means you can only have 3, then have me sit down and bring another blind person up. But they said, yeah, okay. So.
Wow, that was amazing. And you got an amazing standing ovation. Like you mentioned, like 450 people is just a number, but when you actually see it and visualize it, wow. I'm looking back at that experience and I'm already still having goosebumps on that experience. Like, wow.
It was terrifying. It was so scary.
Yeah. And you had an after party in Warner Brothers, and it was very much an amazing experience because we got, you know, all these viewers who viewed the film to, you know, come together in Warner Brothers. Talk a little bit about that and that experience as well. Like, how were we able to bring all these amazing creatives in the amazing Warner Brothers studios? Yeah.
So Melissa Hudson and David Hudson, who was in my film, Melissa is the love story in the film, right? David, the husband, who just 2 of them, it's like the ideal couple that you want. Anyway, I called her and I said, hey, we got into a film festival. We got into Dances with Films. She's like, oh my God. We were freaking out on the phone. And then I said to her, okay, I need to throw some type of after party. So that's the next thing I need to do. And then she goes, I want to throw the after party. And I said, girl, what do you mean? Do you know there's going to be like a ton of people that are like my people there, you know? And then she said, I almost died last year. I had several strokes and I thought I wasn't going to be alive. And so I want to celebrate my life. And that's my birthday and also my 50th birthday and David and my 25th wedding anniversary. So I want to throw this party. And I said, there's going to be like 200 people there. Okay. This is when I thought it was 289 seater. So she's like, I got you. And then, so we were looking at different locations, different venues. And then I had suggested, I was like, I think I could get I could get us at Warner Brothers. I think if I asked like that could be a possibility. And so, yeah, Warner Brothers happened. And that's all like through the help of Melissa and David. Like they were paying for that whole thing, like with a certain amount of people that could come. And then we got sponsors in the community, that the Filipino community. We got FilAm Creative that was helping us out. It was just it was truly a grassroots event. Like I got help from every corner and it was so cool. It was just it was so emotional because it was truly that beautiful party happened because of the kindness of people and seeing the importance of this film. It was so cool.
It was really cool. It was more than cool. We had dances. We had like karaoke at the end. It was
I didn't know that was going to happen.
I didn't know. I mean, like
there was a big marquee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was a marquee and a red carpet, and then like all this food, and it was just like it was beyond what I had ever dreamed. And I was just so grateful for everybody, for all the help, and for especially Melissa, who fronted the bill, and Chris also. So at the end, we needed to add extra people. So Chris Lynch, who's the hiking leader, and Jennifer Salbino donated money to make that happen. Everyone just showed up. It was the most amazing thing. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. And it's one of the highlights of my year so far, how memorable that whole event was, from the TCL Chinese theaters to Warner Brothers. That was such an amazing event. And I'm just super happy to be supporting, Filipino artists, and super congratulations to you on all of that. And I know that the film is really going to places. So that's such an amazing thing. And you mentioned that, it is a collaboration, right? It is also a collaboration between like people, people who support you. You mentioned FilAm Creative, and as well as your friends, etc. But I did notice that, I have been involved in like FilAm Creative events from time to time, just like to see how it's like, etc. And I really see the sense of them trying to support, Filipino artists, Filipino creatives in general. And it's really been a driving force in uplifting underrepresented voices like the Filipinos, right? So I wanted to ask like about your role as VP of Career and Creative Development. How has it allowed you to contribute to this mission and like amplifying all these Filipino voices?
Mark Labella asked me to join FilAm Creative as an officer. And he said that the motto this year was "A rising tide raises all ships." And I said, boom, okay, I see you. I see you, and I'll do it. Because I recognized his heart. And I think what we lack in the community are people like him who truly, they're doing this work because it comes from truly wanting to serve and help each other. It doesn't come from ego or is self-serving kind of a self-serving purpose. Mark Labella is one of the most selfless people I have ever met. And so that energy I could feel right away. So when he asked me, I was like, sure. And my purpose there is to create programming, just like with the rest of the directors and officers. We're there to create programming to uplift our creative community. And I want to eventually start a mentorship program in coordination with my own company eventually. But that's a huge undertaking. We're also doing the first FilAm Creative Film Festival in LA, the first Filipino festival in Los Angeles that's launching in November. And that is created by, that's being led by Jen Aberot. And so there's a lot to do. So one thing at a time. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We all kind of come together and we all support each other. And I even just messaged everybody today and I was like, man, I love you guys. I've never had such a powerful community. And what's crazy is that Mark really chose people who want to serve. They have not a bad bone in their body. They truly just want to serve. They're not there for, self-serving, selfish purposes. They're there because they want to hang out and they want to help and they want to support. And that showed at my documentary film. It showed at my premiere. That was all FilAm Creative, you know, and that's what we're doing right now. It's like, do you need this? And we're like, yeah, I'm there. Like whatever we need, like someone's always there to show up and pick you up. That's cool. It's like trust fall, right? Like we could have a trust fall and like a bajillion people from FilAm Creative will be like, I got you. And that's one of the coolest things I have never experienced ever in my life growing up in the Filipino American community. So I feel very fortunate to have been part of FilAm Creative this year, led by Mark and led by all these incredible leaders. I'm so grateful, so grateful. And I think people see that. They're like, they see us all come together. They're like, I want to be part of that. And it's truly like, we're trying to uplift. We're trying to pull each other up because that's the key. That's the key to get to mainstream. That's the key for visibility is when we help each other because we're more powerful together.
Absolutely. More powerful together. And I got to give a shout out to Mark LaBella. If you're listening to this, you know we love you. You're amazing.
Yo, Mark.
Yo, Mark.
Yo, Mark.
And, you know, it's amazing to me because after moving here, I wasn't really like around like too many Filipino communities here and there. Especially like in the beginning, but like lately I've been like going to like multiple events here and there, and also like FilAm Creative, especially like I'm just so happy to be able to see these creatives, these individuals supporting each other's craft, supporting each other's journey. And I just got to give a shout out to you, Drea, and to Mark, and also other people from FilAm Creative for really helping Filipino voices be amplified. So I wanted to ask you like what is the importance of amplifying Filipino voices? And I think that we're starting to see more and more actually like projects here and there. Like I saw Martika Escobar's film in Sundance, etc. And I think that more things are going to platforms as far as like their films are concerned. So what is the importance of amplifying like Filipino voices in terms of whether it's like their project or like whatever the case may be?
I think amplifying a community that is underserved like ours, that is underrepresented like ours, is so important because the next generation of people that look like us need to see themselves and need to feel like their stories matter, like they matter. It's absolutely important. And even more so, supporting one another is very, very important. Mentoring one another is very, very important. Doesn't matter what age, you got to help each other. Because that's the only way we're going to get visibility. We're like the second largest Asian, I believe, in America, and we're the third or fourth most spoken language in California. We're so powerful, and yet no one knows who we are. Why? And it's because we've been doing this thing. We've been doing this thing where it's like, no, we're trying to be competitive, or we're trying to do things separately. No, that is wrong. We got to come together. We have to come together. I already said it before, but like when you are, it's like the ants, right? There's more of us and they can't say no. And doing things at a high level is important. So you got to help each other. You can't do it alone. We can't change mainstream media alone. And that's like where the error is. And if we don't amplify each other, we're never going to get seen, and our stories will never be understood or heard.
And I absolutely agree. I agree with that completely, that we really just need to support each other and be heard. And I got to say, like, the Philippines has such a rich and amazing history, different backgrounds as well. Like even like north to the south, a lot of different dialects and languages. There's so many things that are so amazing about the Filipino culture, right? Yeah. Especially just coming from different places, you know, there's Filipinos all over the world, and that's just amazing to me. But I also noticed the fact that there is a tendency for Filipinos to be divided from time to time, whatever opinion that might be.
We need to stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Absolutely. Like, I I guess I wanted to ask this question because, yeah, there is some evidence of that happening. Like, how can we all come together to not be divided or as divided?
We just have to keep doing what we're doing. We got to ignore all those people that are trying to cut each other down, and just keep going, because love will always win in the end. Love wins in the end. And so if we just show each other like, hey, I got you, despite all that, and we don't get distracted with the people that are trying to, like, you know, be hurtful or mean or just dumb, like they're feeling competitive or whatever, you ignore those people. You just keep going. Give them love, bless them, and just keep moving. And then you just keep pulling each other up, and we keep rising. And we build our own studio. We build our own studio. We do a Tyler Perry. And then we just keep pulling each other up. That's the thing. And I'm really big on mentorship. That's why I'm in FilAm Creative. That's my job, because I'm literally trying to, like, help the next generation. That's what I did with the cleaning lady event for FilAm Creative. I was just trying to show, hey, like, let's bring all these, like, experts so that we can teach the next generation. That's what's important. It is what's important. That's how we're gonna beat that out, is just by ignoring those people and just keep going.
Absolutely. And I also think that setting an example is also pretty important, especially to the next generation, because they are the future, right? So if they see, like, you know, the present generation, like, helping each other, supporting each other, whether it's their craft or whatever the case may be, they see that and they're like, oh, maybe I'll do the same thing, so that by the time I'm on their shoes, right? Like, I'm going to be doing exactly the same. And I also got to say, like, there's so many stories that are, you know, that these Filipinos have. And I think that they need to be shown as well. I think they need to be amplified. They need to be heard. So that's amazing that people like you, people like Mark, are really supporting these kinds of people as well. And I wanted to ask this final question about Filipino representation, is if you had any wish to be granted for the community of the Filipinos, what would it be?
Give each other a chance. Give each other a chance. You see somebody that's younger that wants a chance, give them a damn chance. Stop gatekeeping. Stop it. You're never going to get there. We're never going to get there that way. That's what I wish. I wish that you would give people a chance, and that and then you pay it forward. When somebody else gives you a chance, you pay it forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Drea, for that. And I gotta say, Filipinos, let's support each other. Let's not be divided. I know that there's so much, like, differences here and there, but I think that love wins, and it will always win in the end. So, Drea, hearts for you. Hearts. We're almost at time, so I just have a few more questions to go. And as the listeners know, and you know as well, like, this podcast is really also about giving advice to our listeners, right? So my first question would be, like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to pursue documentary filmmaking? Because sometimes they go to film school, they go to, like, classes here and there, but I don't think I've ever even taken a documentary class, to be honest, and because that's such a different field. So I guess, like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start in that journey?
Grab your camera, grab your sound, and just start asking questions. And the question should be, what's your curiosity? Like, that's basically how I did Baldy for the Blind. I was very curious on what it was about people's lives. A lot of people plan their questions, which is good. But you just have to ask questions that you want to answer for yourself. At least that's what I did. And I think it worked. It
really did. And you were an editor. You did, like, basically everything.
Yeah. And then if you can't find your people, just learn to do it. And then eventually you like that's. Try to find your people. When you find your people, stick with your people, stick with the same team. You want to grow with them. You learn together and be open to critiques. I think a lot of people are like very prideful and egotistical when we do this stuff. Like, this is my work. I don't want anybody to like critique it. No, let people critique it and be open to the critique. You want to make it better? Do you want to put out a film that'll go to like an awesome film festival and get sold? Well, be open to the damn critiques and stop putting your ego in front of yourself. That's like my biggest thing. Cause for me, I'm like, I will take a critique all day. Like, give me the critique so I can make it better. I want to make it better. Not dumb critiques, not unnecessary critiques, but like critiques that are constructive, that will help you. Those are what you want. And you want it from people that are not like trying to cut you down. They're trying to help you. There's difference.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important to filter out like the ones that are critiques, but they're not really critiques, right? Like maybe if they just want to tear you down for no reason, then just get rid of them.
Exactly. Oh, I got stories about that. But anyway, the golden rule that I have is if two or more people are giving you the same critique, it's not an opinion. It's a real criticism. It's a real criticism you have to take into consideration. So that's my thing. And even when I give critiques, I say, hey, listen, this might be my own opinion, but if you hear this again, then you have to think about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because one thing I always say whenever I'm working on a project, whenever I'm editing a certain video, etc., that if someone has an opinion, right, about the project, whether it's negative or positive, and someone else thinks the same way, it means that way more people are going to think the same way, in my opinion. But I think that some people really have a tendency to be like, oh, someone's criticizing me, I don't want to listen to them. I also think that, it's a chance for you to become better, a chance for you to evolve, and a chance for you to make the best project it can be. And I noticed that with Baldy, it took like 13 years in the making. Having worked on like the editing process, shooting it, etc., it seems that there's a lot of trial and error that's involved in that, right? So I guess you were also like asking questions to various people, I'm assuming. Did you have like mentors along the way, etc.? Be like, oh, how do I edit this clip? How do I make the story better, etc.?
That didn't come till much later. I didn't meet my mentor till like 2020, last year. So I didn't have somebody to bounce off of. I had Matt, who was my co-producer. So him and I would go back and forth. And then I did send it to a couple people who were the problem with a film like mine is that people know my journey a little bit. So they might be a little kinder, where I want the nastiest I'm like, give me the nasty critiques. Like, I want like the meanest critiques that I could ever get. And that's just who I am. Like, I don't care. I have like I don't have a huge ego. I'm like, literally like, please just tell me what's wrong with it, because I want to make it better. And so I remember I gave it to somebody who I knew was going to be so mean. I knew it. I just knew it. So she tore my film down, and she was mean, and it made my film better. And I wanted it. I was like, so I was mentally prepared for the stuff that she was going to say, and filtering out the way she said it and trying to interpret like, oh, she means this. But, it was great. I love that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
that's when you care more about the people in the film than yourself, because you're like, those people are more important but I don't care about myself. Like, who cares? Like,
yeah. And it got to where you needed to be. And, congratulations on the film and everything, because of those people who were giving you constructive feedback. Right. And yes. That's amazing. And I guess my final question, since we're at time, I'm having such a good time, by the way.
I know, right? I'm having fun. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. This is a big one, Drea. Are you ready?
What?
What is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your journey? Whether it's like filmmaking, whether it's working on Baldy for the Blind, whether it's like being in the Filipino community, like what do you think is the most important lesson you've had?
Oof, the most important lesson that I've had doing what we do, being in this industry, is just when you find your people, stick with those people. You hold them so tight, because when you find those good people, because man, there's just a lot of like noise. There's a lot of noise. And when you find the people that are really like there for you, that show up for you, you keep them freaking close. Like you're tight knit, and you hold on to them, and you keep moving to the next thing with them. Like Marielle's my person. You know what I mean? Like Marielle Gutierrez, who's writing The Jungle, the series that I'm directing and producing.
Right.
She's my person. And Ben Bulletow is my person. You know, these people are like my people. And Jeff, Francisco, my people. Mark, Marvin, they're my people. So you stick with them and you support each other. And when you find your tribe, you stick with your tribe.
Stick with your tribe. Shout out to Ben Bulletow as well. If you're listening to this,
Ben.
You're next. I'm coming for you. I'm just kidding. We all love Ben as well. And such an amazing editor. Yeah, for me also, like, things take time, right? And especially like if you're working on something that you really care about, it doesn't happen overnight. Like think of all the projects that have happened that are super amazing and successful here and there. They don't happen the next day. They happen throughout your journey, and it could be days, months, years, whatever the case may be. But also, you know, be constructive with what you're doing. Don't just aimlessly do things like because you're doing them. Actually, like have a set path and goal. I mentioned that things take time, but I think if the time is calculated, that's even better, right? And I also wanted to mention about, you know, your project, other people's project, especially in the Filipino community. Everyone has a unique perspective, which I think what makes each project special. So I would say that don't compare yourself to anybody, because like your story is very important, and your story is super, I guess I can't find the word, amazing. And people can learn from you, because like every story, every person has their own different path. Right. So I gotta say, like, Drea, like through your film and also through your representation for the community, I just want to thank you. And you're so amazing.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
You're amazing.
Last one, I promise, because it just popped in my head.
I love it. Love it.
I'm having such a good time. Why is it important for you to tell your stories through film? Why not books? Why not other mediums, forces of, you know, places to go to, etc.? Why film in particular?
There's something about film that captures you. You know, you're sitting there and you're on a journey, and you're forced. You have to sit there like in a movie theater, and you have to be forced on this journey. Whereas a book, you put it down, you pick it up, you put it down, you pick it up. In a movie, you got to watch the whole thing to be in it. I mean, you could also do the same thing, but who wants to watch a movie like that? But the reason why I wanted to tell stories in general, I had a really tumultuous childhood, really, really crazy. And I couldn't tell my story. I was silenced a lot. So as an adult, I think that's why that all happened, because I meant to help others who don't have a voice and to give them a voice. That's why I went into storytelling. That's why I specifically look for people. I'm like, that person, they don't have a voice. And that's why I go after that. So that is why.
That's amazing. And I also wanted to say that film is such an amazing medium. You know, there's visual, there's audio, there's many things that are involved, and also the community you're creating while working on like a set, etc. It's so amazing, like having to meet various types of people, and also, you know, FilAm Creative, like different communities, different groups. You know, I think that's possible because of film. I think that's possible because of, you know, the stories we're sharing through this medium. So thank you so much, Drea. This has been such an amazing episode, and I didn't want it to be over. But I wanted to ask you, like, anything that's coming up for your future, any upcoming projects that you're working on, etc.
There's so many. What do you mean? I feel crazy.
Tell all of them.
Tell us. Okay. I am working on a feature film called Black Hat. I am producing it, and I have Robbie Bryan, who is directing it and wrote it. that's a coming of the age feature film slash anime. It's really cool. So I'm working on that. And I'm in casting at the moment, and we're trying. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm working on The Jungle, which is a TV series about Filipino Americans throughout different portions of American history, with the first season starting with Manila Town in the 1970s in San Francisco. So we have already started filming that. We're probably going to need to film some more scenes to finish the short version of it. But yeah, we're working on that. We need the community support for that, for sure, to show them like our stories can be on that mainstream level. So that, and there's so many others. I'm working on Browned. I'm working on a chef show with Ben Bulatow. We're still in like the selling phase of that show. I'm working on a documentary in Ecuador that I already started doing research on and started to film about Ecuador hats. It's a whole thing. But anyway, and the people that make this like traditional hat that they have in Ecuador. So I've already started filming that. Tons. There's a ton. Tons going on.
And that's not even everything.
It's not. It's crazy. When people ask me, I'm like, oh my God, like there's so much happening, which I'm very excited about, because I feel like that's why I'm here on this earth. I'm here on this earth to tell stories.
And that's amazing. And congratulations on Baldy, and, wish you all the best in all the projects you're working on. And bless
with Arianna Basco. Yes, Arianna and Darius. Yeah, her dad. So finishing that up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Any people you want to shout out? You mentioned about amplifying people and voices here and there. Like anyone you want to shout out?
So many. So my FilAm Creative family. I love you guys. Mark, Marvin. Ben. Arianna, Basco, I freaking love you. And Marielle, I love you. So many people, my husband, Michael, I love you, like Twinkie. I love Puppy.
Twinkie. Shout out to Twinkie.
Twinkie, woof woof.
Woof woof.
So many people. I'm sure I'm going to miss people, and I hate missing people because there's just so many people that continuously support. But that's why I say my FilAm Creative family, because y'all, like Jeff, Francisco, geez, like Rich, like all these people, incredible. I love you guys. I love you so much.
Incredible people. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for our listeners and viewers who want to follow up with your journey and stuff like that, like where can people find you in social media, etc.?
You can find me on Instagram on I am roaming the earth, and it's letter I, letter M, roaming the earth.
There you go. I'm Roaming the Earth by Drea Castro. She's a hiker.
I'm a hiker.
That's amazing. Well, Drea, this has been so amazing and fun, and I can't wait to see you again, and also maybe hopefully collaborate on a project.
Yes. Would love it. That would be so fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And to all the listeners of The Howl, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.